And have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming a stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the workers.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
Doing very well, thank you. Thomas, hat update. We gave away the hat last week. Congratulations to Alan. He said it was Peter Costello at the start. We said no, pretty sure it's Paul Keating. Turns out it was Peter Costello. So Alan, a truly deserved winner. Let's never do a competition again. Instead, why don't you fill out the Equity Mates survey? Instead of a hat, you could actually win really good prizes like $500 or tickets to FinFest, which is happening November 11th in Sydney. And before we get started with today's show, Thomas, I just want to give a shout out to my wife, Anna. Happy birthday, Anna. Massive fan of the show. She's been listening since the very first episode. Sorry, I meant to say she listened to the very first episode. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot since then. In fairness, with Christmas and family holidays and stuff, she's probably tired of hearing your voice, Thomas. So, massive show coming up. Coles and Woolworths results are out. What did we learn? Do we even still like groceries? We'll find out. Have you ever thought about how you think about your share trading? Well, thanks to IG, this week we'll be looking at the psychology of trading. And if it's not a Mrs. Max, take it back. If you can find her, seems the Mrs. has gone missing. But first, Thomas, it's been a whole week and I've barely had any data at all. Please, I don't care what it is. Just tell me you've got some data on something.
Oh, come on now. No, I've got probably one of the biggest piece of data in at least a quarter. No, we got the wage price index. So we'd been waiting on the wage price index. It was hotly anticipated.
It's all we've been talking about in my place. Me and the boys down the pub.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you guys are all over it. Yeah, so we cared about this because we're looking for evidence of the wage price spiral. We're looking for inflation getting out of hand, and that's showing up in the wages data. That's when it moves from, when we can solidly say it's moved from transitory to permanent is when it's showing up in the wage data. So we got the wage price index and it fizzed. It was nothing. Yeah, 0.8% in the quarter. So the annual rate stepped up a nudge to 3.3%, but markets had been expecting 3.5%. So it's the highest in a decade at 3.3%, but is just nothing really in the scheme of things. So, I mean, you remember that even 3.5% is consistent with an inflation rate of 2.5%. So if you add inflation to productivity, you get 3.5%. 3.3 is kind of pointing to the lower end of the inflation target band. So there's just zero evidence of a wage price spiral getting out of hand here.
Okay, so what does that mean for interest rates then?
It's embarrassing. Really.
Oh gosh, don't look at our data.
Yeah, right. Well, no, because the board came out. We got the board minutes from the RBA board from the last decision, and they noted that hadn't seen inflation data yet, but their business liaison. So the RBA does a business liaison program where they go out and talk to actual businesses and say what's going on, how's activity, what pressures are showing. And they reckon their liaison was pointing to wages growth above 5%. That's obviously not there. Like either the wage price index is broken or the sample of firms the RBA is talking to is misrepresentative or the firms aren't just telling the truth.
Or the liaison has outsourced their role to ChatGPT or something and they're just off in the Bahamas.
So I think that is going to cause the RBA to go like the case for more aggressive rate hikes from here is really kind of almost evaporated with this because it's like it came in well below what people are expecting. Yeah, I mean, the other interesting thing is you got the wage price index, a headline number. You also got wage price index including bonuses. So the headline excludes bonuses.
Oh, yeah.
But you get a measure that includes bonuses, and typically firms will use bonuses and sign-on bonuses and that sort of thing when they're not sure about where the economy's going and they don't want to lock themselves into higher wages. But they say, okay, everyone gets a bonus this quarter because I don't want to lose any staff, but then we'll see what happens next quarter.
Right. Okay.
So the wage price index, including bonuses, actually fell from 3.5 to 3.5, down from 3.8. So that suggests that heat's coming out of the wages market. We're not accelerating. We're actually past peak. So quarter by quarter, we got 1.1% in quarter three. That's 0.8% in December quarter. So now it looks like September's the peak, and we're on our way down. That's without any wages impulse into inflation at all. Right. It just didn't manifest this cycle. It's now looking like.
So I could be reading this wrong, but is this sort of pointing towards like a recession type situation if we start seeing wages staying really low but interest rates going through the roof? Like, it seems like a double whammy for people.
Yeah, we try not to talk about people in economics. Just gets awkward. Yeah, but no, that's
well, sorry, productivity units. I start to worry about the future for us productivity units.
Yeah, no, it's not a good news story for productivity units at all.
It's mainly the smaller productivity units. Won't somebody think of the smaller productivity units? What's the future for them?
Well, no, that's right. So we got a massive gaps opened up between inflation and wages now. So core inflation's running just shy of 7%. Wages much less than that. Real wages now of headline CPI are down 4.5%. So that's a big fall in people's purchasing power. That's the biggest fall on record. Like, that's the biggest fall in real wages ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it's looking great. So we're now on the RBA's forecast, which have a tendency to be overly optimistic when it comes to wages. Like, they're terrible at forecasting wages. But on their forecast, we're going back to 2009 levels. So your real wages are you're losing over a decade of real wages in terms of purchasing power. So going back to 2009 levels, and we're not recovering even on the optimistic scenarios until 2031.
It's terrible news. I was only earning 40,000 in 2009. I can't go back there.
Yeah, but that profile's worse than the 1990s recession. So you look at what happened to real wages then.
So what do we need to do? Just stop the rate rises? Start slashing rates?
I think
productivity units.
It should give the RBA pause to take a breath. You should. Whether it will, I don't know, but it should. I think we can definitely move away from talking about the wage price spiral. There's been a bit of a beat up, particularly in the conservative press, in the AFR as well, around why we shouldn't be giving large minimum wage increases, why we shouldn't be letting workers get big gains because that's going to create a wage price spiral. There's just zero evidence for it, and it's already in the past. And I think Matt Grundolf he's a senior economist at the Australia Institute. He said this really well. To blame workers for current inflation while they are experiencing unprecedented real wage drops and companies post surging profits is economic gaslighting of the highest order. I think that's about right. So I think we do. Yeah, we just need to shift that conversation and stop hammering workers, I think, for inflation that's just not there.
So last week we decided we should probably stop hammering poor people, and this week we're going to stop hammering workers.
That's right. That's right. CVE, championing poor people, workers, and small productivity units.
Yeah. All right, Thomas, the results for Coles and Woolies are in. How did they do?
They're doing well. Net profits up 11.5% for Coles. Woolworths up 14%.
Right.
So, yeah, doing pretty well.
Can they ever do badly? I mean, really? They're selling staple things that we all need.
Staples, yeah. I mean, this is why you talk about consumer staples being a defensive play in your portfolio, is because it's pretty steady. I mean, you're not going to get big upside, I guess, from consumer staples. Like, people don't get big income gains and then go and buy more staples.
Go and splurge on carrots. Got a bonus this week. You're guilty. Might
Look,
get the premium carrots, not the odd bunch for me this week.
Yeah, that's right. So they tend to do well in environments like that, like this, and that's what we're seeing. So, yep, strong results from both of those.
Right.
The interesting thing I think is just with inflation. So what they're saying about inflation. So they're saying that both of them are saying that grocery inflation's around 7%, running around 7%, maybe a touch higher. RBA reckons grocery inflation's a bit closer to 10 and is the highest since 1983. So groceries seem to be a bit of a hot point in the inflation story.
Well, there's no potatoes around. I know that much. There's a potato shortage.
Yeah.
I think
it's interesting.
I think it's a supply. I heard it's a supply-demand mismatch. Basically just means there's not enough potatoes to go around. It's probably some wanky economist that came up with that phrase.
Why are there no potatoes? There's a shortage.
But price of all I know is that the price of chips is through the roof. But there are some like fish and chip shops that are struggling. They can't get chips.
Yeah, right.
And then like big, I know we're getting slightly off topic here, but big fast food chains are kind of coming under fire for hogging all the chips.
Right. Is there potatoes in chips? Is there? I thought.
In what chips? Potato chips.
Like, potato chips. Well, McDonald's, like you kind of break them open, there's nothing inside.
Yeah, no, I think there was potatoes at least at some point.
Yeah, so Woolworths CEO Brad Banducci saying, while affordability of red meat has been challenging and there has been less availability of frozen potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
As Adam said.
See, a finger on the pulse.
Yeah. Inflation is coming down. He's saying that. Coles incoming CEO Leah Weckert says, we are expecting pressures to remain, but we are expecting them to start to moderate. The pressures we think will continue to stay are in areas like dairy, energy and wages, but we would expect to see some moderation starting to come through in areas like freight, wheat and packaging.
Fun fact about Leah Weckert, she's from Adelaide, I realised. I read that the other day. Yeah. She's taking over as Coles CEO. Adelaide girl done good.
Yeah.
Pleased
I find it interesting that every article I read about Coles mentions that she's from Adelaide.
Yeah.
Don't produce many CEOs over there.
I think it's just to prepare people for the incoming change that shops will no longer be open after 8 o'clock at night or before 11 on Sundays.
She's going to put a stamp on the organisation.
Time to bring the rest of the nation in line with Adelaide's shopping hours. All right, so
she said they'll be now selling tomatoes instead of tomatoes. Yeah. So the other interesting thing is they're talking about trade, looking at consumer behaviour. They're talking about trading in versus trading down. So trading down is when you buy the cheaper stuff. So Leah Weckert saying in areas like pasta and rice and oil, we have seen where we have seen some home brand trade particularly strongly, and shoppers trade out of the proprietary brands.
Okay,
that's probably the key one we're seeing, but we're definitely seeing customers moving down.
I would challenge anyone to detect the difference between cheap brand packet pasta and premium brand packet pasta. I don't know. Maybe my palate's not refined enough, but it's the same pasta, surely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then Woolworths saying that they're seeing some trading in. So saying customers are starting to trade into eating at home, so rather than eating out.
Oh, yeah.
And they've seen a pronounced shift in recent weeks across all demographics.
Huh.
So it's taken a while to buy it, but they're now seeing people start to eat at home, and they pick up in the stuff that goes with eat at home.
They eat at home, but they're eating cheaper at home.
Well, they're doing both. I think the people who were eating at home are now eating cheaper, and the people who were eating out are now eating at home.
Eating at home.
Is my guess.
Maybe they're going over for dinner at the people who are already eating at home.
Taking around some potatoes.
So it's just a recent thing. Why has it taken consumers so long to kind of adjust to this?
I think this is the interesting thing. They talk about interest rates having a lag, rate hikes having a lag. I think this is the thing. It takes a while for consumers to really clock the shift. And I kind of see this in my house now. Like, our rate payments are going up, but it's sort of taking us a while to go like, actually, hang on, this is starting to hurt. We need to like make some budgeting decisions now. We could have done that 4 or 5 months ago. We just didn't get around to it till till just now. So,
Is it maybe also that people, we've talked in the past about after COVID and that war chest of savings that people have. I think that creates a bit of a buffer, to your point, that you don't notice as much or as quickly that you're eroding that savings. Like you just you're living week to week and spending, buying groceries, and then one day you kind of go, hang on, groceries are costing like 20% more than they used to cost.
Yeah, it could be right. Though I think with that war chest story, I think I've seen some data recently that suggests that like 90% of it is held in like over 65s or something, or 90% in the top 10% of households.
Boomers have done it again. living in their 4 houses. Now they're hogging all the groceries. All right, why don't we take a break here? We'll grab a word from this week's sponsors and be back with more Comedian versus Economist right after this. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist. And Thomas, got some nice reviews coming in, actually. Shep17 left us a really great review. Who knew economics could be so entertaining? This podcast is a hilarious breath of fresh air with hosts who expertly explain complex concepts. Note hosts there, Thomas, as well, in a way that even an avocado toast-loving millennial like me can understand. Highly recommend for anyone who wants to get smart without falling asleep. We do love your reviews and ratings, so if you could do that while you're listening to the show, that would be really, really very much appreciated. All right, Thomas, our sponsor this week is IG, and IG reckon our brains aren't naturally wired for trading, which, if you've seen my Facebook marketplace buys and sells, I would beg to differ. Strong marketplace game. But when it comes to the stock market, is that true? We're not really wired for trading?
No, humans are terrible at trading. Actually, left to their own devices. Yeah, like we're just a hot mess of biases and emotions, and random psychological influences. So so if you're not conscious of this, you're a terrible trader. You're a terrible investor. You really need to. Yeah, you need to get on top.
Social
of this.
media should have given us some insight into this. That this was our natural state. Our human behaviour was full of irrational thoughts and biases. I don't know why we get off Facebook or Instagram or wherever you are, TikTok, and then go, I reckon we're a bunch of sane people ready for trading.
The thing is that people get off and go, wow, other people are idiots. But thankfully, so IG is onto this and they're aware of this, and they've built a hub called the Master Your Trading Mind Hub, and they've pulled together a whole bunch of info just on this topic about getting on top of your biases and your psychology and they've got heaps. I was looking through it today. There's heaps there. There's podcasts and ebooks and massive amount of stuff there in the Master Your Trading Mind Hub.
All right, cool. So you want to unpack a bit of this trading psychology. How do you want to do it?
Yeah, so I want
me to lead?
Yeah. So you give me a trading idea and I'll tell you why it's wrong. No, I was reading a fascinating article today on the trading biases. So particular, like there's a whole bunch of cognitive biases, but they've identified a bunch that are particularly relevant for traders. And they had so they gave us a bit of a list there, and I wanted to look at that in the context of the greatest trade by the greatest investor ever.
Right, Buffett.
Yeah, all close. Charlie Munger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What's Charlie up to?
Yeah, so we learned last week that Berkshire Hathaway is selling down their stake in BYD Motors. That's a Chinese automotive company specializing in EVs. They're the biggest electric vehicle seller in China.
I heard that they're bigger than Tesla.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know about that. They sold 1.86 million cars last year. That was 3 times up on what they sold in 2021. So massive growth.
And 1.86 million times the number of Cybertrucks that Tesla sold.
So one.
Yeah, they had one. That was a demo. Someone threw a rock through the window.
No, really? Yeah. So BYD's not beset by these sort of problems. Civil unrest in China.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Tesla sold 1.3 million. So they did more, but I think they do some hybrid vehicles too. But anyway, they're crushing it over in China. Yeah. So Berkshire Hathaway bought in to BYD in 2008. They tipped in 230 million. That 230 million is now worth somewhere around 8 to 9 billion.
That's nothing. I bought a pair of speakers for $50 and I sold them for $280. I'm just saying we've all had wins along the way.
I'm surprised Fortune magazine doesn't reach out to you more often.
I don't know. My phone has been ready. I keep it close by. I'm ready for the call whenever it comes through.
Yeah,
there's me, Charlie, and Warren. We're just we know what's up.
Yeah. So that's I think you'd call that a winning trade. 600% just in the last 10 years. Wow. So smashing it, but they are now taking some money off the table. So they had their stake was around 20%, then it's now down to 11 to 12%. So they're exiting that one. Yeah, Charlie Munger was saying that I've never helped do anything at Berkshire Hathaway that was as good as BYD.
Right.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
So what can we learn then from this mega trade?
Well, I think it's interesting if you look at the biases, the trading biases that IG laid out in one of their articles on the Hub. So saying like a bias is a subconscious but systematic way of thinking that occurs when your brain takes a mental shortcut and it can lead you astray. And they give us a list of these. So the first one I thought was interesting is the availability bias. And this is the tendency to...
Speakers are available right now. The guy wrote this weekend only. I'm like, what are you, a shop? But it did get me moving.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm really worried now. I'm worried that we're going to go through all of these biases and I'm going to be like, check.
Yeah. Possible.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, it's not what's available in the moment. It's that you select information based on what's available to you rather than what's relevant. So you have a filter on the information that's coming through to you based on what's easily accessible, what's already in your field.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So can you give me an example?
Well, I think this trade itself is a good example because most investors, investing companies, focus on the domestic market. We know most investors focus on the domestic market because that's where the information is that they're getting. They're reading the newspaper. They're getting information about BHP or whatever, and so they become experts in those areas and discount other flows of information. Right. So I think this is a good one where they've gone to China, 2008, still super early days in EVs, super early days even in China, but they've opened up the net of information gathering and come up with a gem. So I think that's a good example of ducking that availability bias.
Sure.
The second bias is anchoring bias, and this is the idea that the information that you get primed with first has an oversized impact in your information matrix.
Right. Yep.
So like the classic in the sales technique is how much would you expect to pay? $9,000, $10,000. Actually, it's $100.
Right.
And you think, wow, $100 because you've just been primed. You're anchored around 10,000.
Yeah.
And so now it seems cheap.
That was the listing as well. He's like, for this weekend only, not $1,000, not $500, $50. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is an outrageous deal.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I really shouldn't have bothered researching this Munger trade at all.
No. Yeah. It's serious business. So what are the other biases?
Well, I think that one just in terms of how that trade's relevant. So Tesla was founded in 2003. That was building hype. That would have been attracting a lot of attention. That would have been anchoring everyone's expectations about what might be possible in the EV space. They've managed to sort of ignore all that and look at the fundamentals of BYD and pick a winner.
Yeah, that's interesting because I have heard of BYD, but only like in the last 6 months, maybe. Like for me, if you ask me who makes EVs, I'm like, well, Tesla and probably some others. Probably, I'm not. I'm a realist. I know what's what in the world. Probably someone else has started making them as well. some little copycat.
Nissan.
Well, there was what was the other one? The Nikola, but that turned out to be a dud. So a little corrupt dud. If just in case being a dud wasn't bad enough. Right. So whereas Munger was like, nah, BYD's where it's at. No one's looking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right.
Cool. The next bias is confirmation bias. So that's when you give greater weight to information that confirms your pre-existing beliefs or predictions.
Yep.
So you kind of discount stuff that disagrees with you and put weight on stuff that does. There's a study that they cited that showed that traders are more likely to be overconfident if they have stronger confirmation bias, and as a result, trade more frequently, which they incur those trading costs. So you got to watch out for confirmation bias. You
can also see it in their Google search history. They like use search terms like, "Why is Tesla so amazing?" and Why will Tesla be such a profitable EV car company?
Yeah. Why are Tesla bears idiots? Right. So the thing I love in this is that Charlie Munger was saying that they tried to talk Wang Chanfu, who's the CEO and the driving force of BYD. They tried to coach him out of what he was doing, and he ignored them. And they went, all right, you seem to know what you're doing. We'll let you go.
Oh, it was a test.
Yeah. That's right.
See, Munger's no stranger to psychology. He's gone with a bit of, maybe we're going to cover it here later on, I'm not sure, but the old reverse psychology. Whereas I think you should stop doing. No, I'm going to keep going. Yes, you passed. We're investing.
We think you should make less money. No.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to skip over the reverse psychology bias here. Just go straight to the loss aversion bias.
Right. What's loss aversion?
Yeah, well, this is where the fear of a loss is much greater than the incentive of a gain, and we tend to be much more afraid of losing money than we are motivated by making money.
Yeah, I think you see that in the stock market a lot. People much more inclined to sell, like panic sell. You hear about people panic selling in the stock market a lot. They buy maybe, and I guess without a solid plan behind them, perhaps to know what their long term, and Equity Mates do a good job of talking about this stuff, about having your investment horizons and all this sort of stuff. But you do hear a lot of panic selling. So that's what that is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they cited a study by Odeon, looked at a bunch of trading accounts and found that individuals tend to hold on to losing positions for too long. They're waiting for them to turn around, and they close out winning trades much too early.
Right.
So there's an IG analyst, Chris Bokamp, says a fear of losing money often leads to closing out winning trades too early. Stats show that the big winners make up for lots of small losses, but that ending winning trades too soon eliminates the possibility of big wins.
I do worry that Charlie Munger may be getting out. Like, he's about to make some serious money on BYD. He's going to get out and only have made $8.5 billion.
Yeah. Kicking himself.
He'd be furious.
Yeah. I mean, so that they held that trade for 15 years.
Right.
BYD has come off, like with the tech crash, has come off about 20%, 30% in the past 6 months. So I think they're saying, that's how we're out. We're picking our moment. Yeah. All
right, cool. Well, for those who are ambitious, ready to put in the work and improve their trading, it's time to step up from their entry-level platform to IG. IG is where traders are made. Search Master Your Trading Mind or head to the Master Your Trading Mind hub on IG.com to find out more.
This segment was sponsored by IG Australia. Trading involves risk to your capital. Issued by IG Australia Pty Limited, AFSL 515106.
All right, finally on the show, Thomas, you sent me a link to the administrator's report on Mrs. Max. What's going on there? Are they bankrupt?
Yeah, they're bankrupt. Yeah,
Since when?
Since November. November they went into administration.
What? Mrs. Max?
Yeah, I know.
This is a bad day.
Yeah.
What's happened to them?
Well, they just went bust, I think.
Right.
I mean, they had some challenges. So Grant Thornton is the liquidators. They're going through the ruins of the company, the carcass, to sort of pull out and try and understand what happened. But a few things: a blowout in the cost of construction of a bakery in Western Australia. It was a $23 million project. There was $8 million over budget. But I think that was largely about COVID travel restrictions messing with that.
Because they've been around for ages.
Yeah. It's established 1954 by Ken McGregor.
Ken McGregor used to play for the Crows too.
Did he?
I'm pretty certain it was a different Ken McGregor. In fact, there was a Ken McGregor who was a champion tennis player as well. Ken McGregor's all over the shop. Might have been the tennis player may have been the same guy.
Yeah.
In any case, pretty shrewd business operator. He avoided paying taxes by putting the company in his wife's name, Mrs. McGregor.
Yeah, smart.
Very clever.
Well, this is the thing. Like in the liquidators report, and I don't think they've done anything wrong here, but saying that they had a whole bunch of assets and then they sold the majority of the business to Pieface in October for $24.2 million and then went to their creditors and said, we've got no assets. And they're like, what happened to the assets? It's like, we sold them.
Don't know. Not sure. They were here somewhere and then they're gone. I don't know where they went.
Yeah. So sorry, we're bankrupt.
She seemed like such a nice lady, Mrs. Mac. There's the picture.
You just wouldn't pick it, would you?
Nah.
From looking at her.
I just imagine having to take something to the CEO. You'd have to get like a horse and cart or something to a nearby cottage to go and visit Mrs. Mac. She's just sitting there in a rocking chair with a fire with a little nana rug. Excuse me, Mrs. Looks like profits are down. She's just like, oh, never mind, dear. That's fine. We'll be okay. Turns out, no. Right.
Yeah.
So right. So they've been bankrupt for a while then.
Yeah.
No one even noticed. I didn't notice.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, I think because they sold the brand on, so I think they're still. Mrs. Max pies are still out there in the market, but they're owned by Pieface now. Rather, the Mrs. Max, the company, the shell company, is toast. This is what the liquidator Grant Thornton was saying, was that they were possibly trading insolvent for 6 months before they wound up without anyone noticing.
That's nothing. They sold offal as meat for 30 years before anyone noticed.
Again, you wouldn't pick it to look at her, would you?
I have no foundation for that claim.
Oh, right.
No.
Right, okay, yeah. Let's take that one back then.
Yeah. But who knows what's in a pie, really? Like, come on. We're all I think as Australians, we're all very accepting of just the contents of a pie just being a pie.
Yeah, as long as it's tasty.
I think it was actually their slogan, though, that really hit them the hardest, because they went for a long time with, if it's not a Mrs. Max, take it back.
Which I think was one of the best slogans in the game. Like, I think that was every time I saw that, I went, that's a good slogan.
Yeah. But they really hit tough times though when, like, the Australian Food and Safety Commission came in with laws that said you can't return a pie for simply not being a Mrs. Max. We were talking about interest rates last week on the show, and talking about interest rates as the lever that the RBA uses to control inflation and whatever. And we did have a discussion about alternatives to interest rates and what that might look like. And we had a couple of interesting comments and emails during the week. So David left us a comment on our Facebook page at CVE Podcast. He said, how about a new law to slow the economy and benefit poorer people to make employers raise super contributions during high inflation periods? So you take money out of the economy but don't hand it to the banks and let the powers of compounding give greater benefit to the employee. So that's a good idea, isn't it? Just raise everyone's super contribution.
Yeah, potentially. I guess there's two ways to do it. One is you either take it out of the take-home pay, so workers are paying for it, or you increase what employers are paying. and so employers are paying for it. Both of those would slow economic activity or take money out of the economy. You're forcing savings, so that potentially does that job. I do wonder about the majority of the Australian workforce is employed in small to medium business. So whether that, in a recession or something, or in tough economic times, if that might create a bit of struggle for smaller businesses.
Because is that the goal, like to take money out of the economy? Ultimately, like to... I noticed you brought wind chimes to the show this week too, Tom. That's a nice addition. We were recording in the daytime, so there was no frogs or nature, no nocturnal animals creeping around. So you've replaced them with wind chimes. That's lovely.
No, it just helps the frogs sleep.
Sorry.
Yeah, but no, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take money out of the economy, stop it going around. So wherever you can create a leakage from the system and suck money out. So super does that by sucking it out and sticking it in savings accounts for a while. That's potentially good. But partially does the job.
Yeah, so we had another one from Tome who sent us an email, cve@equitymates.com. He said, after listening to your latest podcast, I believe the best way to control inflation would be to let central banks control the GST, and then goes on to say a bit more about why that would be a good thing. Thomas, can we let central banks control the GST? Yeah,
in theory, that could work. I mean, I don't know. I haven't thought too hard about it. Any tax, you can increase any tax. But again, the GST disproportionately affects poorer people because poorer people consume more of their income than wealthy people. So you're taxing more of their income than you are taxing. And that was the big criticism when the GST was brought in, is it tends to be regressive because the poorer you are, the higher your marginal propensity to consume. So that doesn't I don't know. I'd be a bit skeptical about that.
Yeah, saying this would directly impact the people to slow down spending. I believe GST is a much better form of tax revenue than income tax. Why not remove all income tax for individuals and companies, but have a higher GST rate of 30 to 40%? This would remove tax avoidance and individuals have more control over how they spend their money. I don't know that I like his example. For example, Adam can choose to spend his money on only the items he needs, like food and utility, while saving the rest, compared to Thomas, who is better off and can choose to spend his money on more lucrative items such as entertainment, going out, etc. I think there's a fairly loaded example there of what Tom thinks about our financial standings, Tom.
That's funny.
For example, Adam, who's a bum, can't afford anything. He'd be better off.
You can buy more cigarettes. But then there was another one which I've lost the email now.
Ryan sent us an email as well. Interested to get Thomas' thoughts. Sorry, Adam. What is it?
You're a bum.
He said, sorry, Adam, keep making the jokes. On a recent article I read from Gareth Hutchins titled, Is There a Better Way to Kill Inflation Than Raising Interest Rates? Basically, he cites a couple of people, including John Maynard Keynes, whatever. I'm not very well read. Who offer alternatives where a portion of an individual's pay is requisitioned to be returned later. Okay. So basically we just dock your pay, but not really. We just hold it back.
Get it back. You get it back later.
What do you reckon?
I like this idea. Of all the ones we've sort of, I hadn't heard of this one, so thanks for the tip off. But I like this idea. Like to make the most sense, you just sort of stash it away. People have to adjust their spending, but they're not worse off in the long run. Like compared to interest rates, it hits your spending, but no one's really better. No one's a net beneficiary from higher interest rates. It's just
it's similar to the raising the super contributions one, but arguably the super contributions one's better because if you just hold their pay back, like if you take $10 out of my pay this week and give it to me in 2029, it's going to be worth like $3. Like, you haven't done me a favour at all.
Right.
Because inflation.
I guess I would presume it's invested somehow, or that it comes. Yeah, and
so
or
it's
that
like
it comes.
Super.
Yeah, well, maybe you can. Maybe. I think the idea with Keynes was originally that it comes back when you need to stimulate the economy. So that money comes back to you when the government needs to push it along.
Cowboy he was.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to equitymates.com. Check out the community survey. We'd love to get your feedback on what you like about the show or all the shows across the Equity Mates Media Network. Check out the details on FinFest happening again this year, November 11. Put that date in your diary. Feel free to send us an email as well. We're getting tons through at the moment, which we love. Love to get your thoughts on the show. And for this week, that's all from us. It is bye for now.
This episode included sponsorship by IG Australia. Trading involves risk to your capital. Issued by IG Australia Pty Limited, AFSL 515106. You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs, or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.